flannel to go watch the 4th of July fireworks. So I got back here for my EXO tour in 2010, and 5 of my last 7 duty stations, including that one, have been here in the Pacific Northwest. I love it here. I consider Kitsap County my home, and look forward to retiring here one day when the Navy doesn't have more jobs at Kitsap for me. As I said, in my current capacity, I'm the CEO of Naval Base Kitsap. Our mission is, can you see the slide, someone? Oh, there we go. Where am I? Maybe I just asked you to do it. All right, so our mission, as you can see here, really we support the missions of our tenant commands. So a lot of times local communities, when they think of the Navy, they often look to the base commander as the face of the Navy to the community. But Naval Base Kitsap is made up of over tenant commands. But as the installation commander, my first and foremost job is the safety and security of what we call the protected population. That is my job is to protect the protected population, to ensure their safe access onto the base, safe egress from the base, make sure they're properly credentialed to come on the base, they're safe while they're on the base. We provide facilities to those commands. We help to operate the ports and deploy the ships and submarines that go to sea to support both fleet commander missions, combatant commander missions in the Pacific Theater, and U.S. Strategic Command. We provide those ships and submarines with their critical utilities, communications, whether it's phone lines, internet services, and their environmental services. We provide fuel to Navy ships and aircraft all over the Puget Sound as part of what I do on base here, and we provide quality of life services for all service members, assigned civilians that work on the base, and their families. I do find it important to point out, though, that Naval Base Kitsap is unlike almost any other base in the Navy, I would argue. In 2004, Naval Base Kitsap was established by combining what were then 5 separate installations. So Naval Station Bremerton, Naval Submarine Base Bangor, all became part of Naval Base Kitsap. So you can see the different properties here: Jackson Park, Manchester, Keyport, in addition to Bremerton and Bangor. I also I've got some other state locations: Camp McKean, Camp Wesley Harris, some things in Daybuck Bay and on the Torondos Peninsula. Also have responsibilities as far north as CFAC and Ketchikan, and even a small building up in Kodiak, Alaska. So simply put, it's a pretty dynamic installation. So what we look like, we serve under Navy Region Northwest. That's Rear Admiral Mark Ciccato. He also oversees Naval Air Station Whidbey Island, Naval Station Everett, and the Naval Magazine Indian Island. But Naval Base Kitsap itself is, depending on the metric you use, is anywhere between 55 to 75% of the Navy region that encompasses the northwest portion of the United States and Alaska. I've mentioned before, over 80 tenant commands, with Puget Sound Naval Shipyard being one of those. 52,000 personnel. That doesn't include contract services. 1,800 buildings, numerous in-water structures such as dry docks. Critical, probably have the most critical and largest portfolio of shore infrastructure in the entire Navy at $13.2 billion. Just as a by way of comparison, you'd have to combine San Diego, Norfolk Naval Shipyard, Kings Bay to equal Naval Base Kitsap in the amount of shore investments, criticality, by one measure, the criticality, the missions that what we support here. And we support 65% of the Navy's strategic deterrent mission capability. I'll talk a little bit more later, but I'll go ahead and plant the seed that this doesn't reflect more than $7 billion of future investment in both a new class of ballistic missile submarine and improvements to the waterfront in Bremerton and an infrastructure optimization program that the Navy is undergoing across all 4 of our public shipyards. Just to kind of illustrate another way the growth. So you can see on the left-hand column, this is what we looked like in 2004 when things were combined. And today, what we look like with a little bit of the blue text in the bottom, if you can see the difference in color in the back there. We've grown a lot in 18 years. We've almost doubled the number of missions we have. We have 1 aircraft carrier home ported here. USS Nimitz is home ported here and will return this summer. And we're projected to go through a period in the out years where we could potentially have 3 aircraft carriers here for for a few months. Not for long term, but in a period of transition where we could have as many as 3 for a small amount of time. I just feel that this presence in our missions represents a significant contribution to the local and regional economy. Go back and look at sort of the history of the city of Bremerton and the Navy to focus a little bit more on our neighbors here outside Naval Base Kitsap Bremerton. 1891 was the Naval Shipyard. The Naval Shipyard was established. I did just learn a few minutes ago that we think maybe the city of Bremerton wasn't actually incorporated until 1901. Got a little bit of a head start on you, I guess. But we're both established, well over 100 years ago. What we looked like in World War II, the shipyard focused on repairing warships, was kind of a boom for Bremerton. Employed 32,000 workers. Today, more than 23,000 people come to the base daily on Naval Base Kitsap Bremerton. So again, I'd emphasize that Puget Sound Naval Shipyard is the largest and most diverse shipyard on the West Coast. It's the second largest industrial facility in the state of Washington, and it's the only place in the West Coast or in the Pacific Theater where we can dry dock a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. I appreciate, I got this slide from Captain Mosman. I thought it was a great illustration of kind of the growth in the shipyard year by year. So you can see just kind of how things have filled and how much of the shipyard is actually built on fill over the different years. This is a slide represents the economic impact we think we have to the area, although we'll highlight that this financial data is caveated, that it's the 2017 data for the financial data on the slide. We don't do this ourselves because we're not experts in this, so it actually costs us money to tell you how much money how many dollars we impact you with. But those are the current number of jobs, almost 39,000 military and almost 14,000 civilians. Information I have says that I would claim that I'm bigger than the next 15 employers in the area. The next 15 combined. 2.3 billion in industry outputs, and then 2.5 billion basically employee paychecks. Looking to the future, some of the waterfront improvement projects that I mentioned, the shipyard infrastructure optimization program. It's more than a $4 billion improvement for the waterfront infrastructure on Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. It really hasn't seen a major update for over half a century. Constructing a multi-mission dry dock, so M2D2. Since we love our acronyms in the Navy, we found a way to even make an acronym out of 2 words. Seismic upgrades to existing infrastructure, some upgrades to Dry Dock 6, which is the big carrier dry dock that I mentioned earlier. So that increases our capability and capacity for ship maintenance. So our conservative estimate projects at 300 workers a day for constructing multiple projects over a period of up to 15 years with a significant number of engineers. And so it's going to be modification, removal, construction, or replacement of piers, wharves, and including, sadly, the removal of the landmark historical hammerhead crane. The Columbia-class submarine is a smaller, but not less capable replacement to the Ohio-class submarine. The Navy predicts that we'll get our first one of those here in 2032. The first ships of the class will go to Kings Bay. We will try to leverage the lessons they learned in Kings Bay from deployment of a new class of submarine to Kings Bay before we do that here. And that'll be our first line of deterrence and defense in today's era of great power competition when she arrives here. And my last topic is just to highlight sort of our community Navy partnerships that we have here. So 2015 Joint Land Use Study, so it was a collaborative effort between us at the installation and local government to encourage compatible activities near the installations. Again, I go back to part of my responsibility is to ensure the workforce at the installation can safely, efficiently come onto the base and egress the base. But we understand that we've got to be good neighbors, and we need to do that fully informed on how the city of Bremerton plans to develop for the future, and that we understand each other's missions, each other's desires and needs, and find the best compatible way to move forward together as good neighbors. The Joint Compatibility Transportation Plan is also another effort, ongoing effort by the city to develop that strategy for Bremerton's future growth in a way that doesn't impede our ability to accomplish our mission. And we do appreciate the city's effort in that work, and look forward to continuing to work with you on that topic as well. Both the base, the Department of Defense, and all our tenants do seek partnerships and mutual aid as we're part of your community. So just for examples, there's a program called the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, heard as DCIP. We're in Kitsap County, $10 million to replace the sewer line between Bangor and Keyport and the Central Kitsap Treatment Facility. I know that's county, not city, but I offer that as an illustration of the kinds of projects that can be funded or help to be funded through such grants through that program. We're continuing to replace culverts, sort of like the effort that's underway at Chico right now to help fish flows. We do some of those things on the base too, and environmental stewardship projects even out in the local community. Fire and emergency services do support local services. So 1,700 service calls received last year. 350 of those were off base out into the local communities that we're neighbors with. And then volunteering, active duty personnel and base employees committed over 2,300 hours in 2022 in basically community service. So this is my contact information, and with that's my prepared remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have for me.
Thank you so much, Captain Hale. I know we greatly appreciate you taking the time to come to council here and update not only us, but the entire city on all the efforts and across the entire base. So thank you. And I'm going to steal a line from Councilmember Goodnow, he used once before, which is that Bremerton and the Navy base are like siblings that have grown up together. So as we continue to grow, I look forward to us growing together and working together. So thank you so much. And let me extend my thanks as well to the Navy Color Guard for presenting tonight. So with that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, but let's give a round of applause for Captain Hale, and thank you once again. All right, and next up, we have the mayor's reports. Welcome, Mayor Wheeler. You have a tough act to follow tonight.
I sure do. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Good to see the Navy come this evening to give the briefing. You know, obviously, I have a close relationship just through my own 34-year career, active duty and Department of Navy. So retired 7.5 years ago, and obviously wanted to continue serving. But yeah, it's an excellent partnership. We appreciate the Navy. So we'll get to the first slide. So this one, yes. And speaking of a dynamic marine environment, I wanted to highlight some work that happened Saturday night. And you may not be aware of everything that took place when the ferry ran aground. There was an instance there where it had to be treated as a potential mass casualty incident, and so a lot of folks were mobilized, and that means including our own Bremerton fire and emergency responders. And that means calling them in from whatever family activity, whatever thing they had going on. They had to mobilize as many folks as possible. We joined the entire region in sending some folks up to Bainbridge Island. We sent a fire engine, Marine 20, and a paramedic unit. And with that, we also backfilled locally here at our own ferry terminal to ensure safe transport of folks back down, you know, from the ferry. So this is just an opportunity for me to show my appreciation for a pretty smooth operation. Now, we're very fortunate that this wasn't a mass casualty event. So, but what it did show is we can mobilize quickly and bring in other partners and operate as one in this region. Kitsap Transit deserves a lot of credit for moving quickly and bringing in ships and to help with the offload of the passengers from the Issaquah. And obviously the Coast Guard came in, the Department of Transportation, all the fire services in our county, and of course the governor's office all came together to get these passengers back home safely by approximately 10 p.m. So it was very inconvenient. I can't thank the folks enough for their patience and resilience in working together, really just being good neighbors to each other, good citizens to help each other while it's still uncertain. So this is just a chance to provide that recognition. Next slide, please. So one more time, we're going to promote this important event, this important open house for, obviously we're getting down to the final design of the Warren Avenue Bridge project. And so we're looking for as much public input as possible. And of course, you can see the surveys running from April 10th to April 28th. That's an opportunity to get some more input. And then obviously a couple more meetings, and we're close to having that design finalized. Next slide, please. Now, this is just, it's an effort, and this is another example of a good collaboration between many of our neighbors. The city of Bremerton is a partner in our Sinclair Inlet cleanup. And this is a way of our part of doing, recognizing Earth Day. So Chance Berthume and John Dennis are both the city representatives for the Bremerton sites. This is a good way to get out and actually roll up your sleeves and do some good for our environment. So I encourage that. That's it from me tonight, Council. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mayor Wheeler. All right, next up, we have the consent agenda.
Thank you, President Coughlin. For approval on the consent agenda are the following items. A, claims and check register. 1, check numbers 402443 through 402602, and electronic fund transfers B37222 through B37330 in the grand total amount of $2,788,159.12. 2, regular payroll for pay period ending March 31st, 2023, in the amount of $1,081,999.38. 3, regular payroll payout for pay period ending March 31st, 2023, in the amount of $340.53. B, minutes of meeting April 5th, 2023. C, minutes of study session April 12th, 2023. D, goods and services agreement with Aquatechnics LLC for aquatic treatment and vegetation harvesting of Kitsap Lake. E, professional services agreement with Confluence Engineering Group LLC for iron and manganese extended monitoring and treatment pre-design. F, agreement with SCJ Alliance for construction management services for the Washington and 11th Street roundabout project. G, contract with In Situ Form Technologies for the 2023 sewer rehabilitation project. And H, amendment number 7 to Imperial Parking LLC, Parking Enforcement and Management Services Agreement. This concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hoover. Does any member of the public wish to comment on any one of these specific items? Yes, please just state your name for the record and I'll give 3 minutes.
Roy Runyon, Bremerton. 3 minutes?
Yes, please.
Got a question about item H, the Imperial Parking Contract extension. 2 questions. Number 1, what is the cost of that extension? And number 2 is why have we not gone out to bid, to ask for bids for other service providers?
Really do Q&A with the public comment, but I can, if the administration wants to give a response, council can just take that under advisement. Okay, thank you. Any other folks wanting to speak for public comment? Let's make sure we don't got anyone online. One online, Dave. All right, with that, I will close, seeing none, we'll go to the council for a motion on the consent agenda. Councilmember Denny.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Fry. I call for the question.
Member Chamberlain,
Yes.
Fry,
Yes.
Dennehy,
Yes.
Goodnow,
Yes.
Mochler,
Yes.
Younger,
Yes.
Coughlin.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is public recognition.
It's noted on the agenda, public recognition provides an opportunity for attendees to address the council on any city-related item that's not already listed on tonight's agenda. So I just want to note we have the two general business items on the public safety levy and the race equity advisory commission. So if you have comments on either one of those two, hold them for now. But on any other topic, please either come up to the podium, state your name for the record. We'll have comments of 3 minutes or less, or folks on Zoom can raise their hand. And we'll go ahead and start here in the room.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. My name is Leslie Dowds, District 2. I'm here today to speak about a recent City Council meeting held on April 5th, 2023, regarding a conversation about parks. Being a City Council person is a daunting position. You are here to make policies to help benefit the city and the citizens who live here, as well as working with many individuals from citizens, community members, electees, and staff from various organizations. With that comes decorum. I was deeply disturbed by the way a council member chose not to do a photo op on behalf of the work of being done with the Kiwanis Park. How this council member treated a staff member and how disrespectful the council member was with Parks Director Jeff Elevato. They basically said to the Parks Director, if you were not working on Kiwanis, you could be working on Haddon Park, referring that this is the only project one should work on. Even after Councilmember Denny called point of order, the conversation continued to move forward, which was not relevant to the topic of interest. When Director Elevato made a comment, the council member disagreed with him and said, no, and then shaking their head in response. Your job as council is not to berate staff and be disrespectful. In fact, they have a hard job. And it makes it more challenging when council members continue to berate the work the staff do. Parks Director Elevato and his staff have over 30 parks, which are based on limited funding, limited staff, and to move a project to the front of the line takes many steps. They must work with the departments, which at times limit the work needed to be done, as well as causing delays. As a council member, you represent Bremerton as a whole, and one project in a certain district does not have priority of another. One thing is for sure, we may not agree with everyone we work with or meet, but you are representing the city of Bremerton. Council members and mayors come and go, but the one thing that stays steady is the staff for the city of Bremerton. They deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, not like the council meeting held on April 5th, 2023. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. No one should be talked down to and treated in the way that they did on April 5th. As council president, your job is to maintain the meeting and hold everyone accountable to the agenda, as well as hold decorum in your meeting. Thank you for giving me this time. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Anybody else for public recognition? Yes, please go ahead in the room.
Hi, my name is Michaela Permentine. I'm a resident of District 6. I wanted to ask what the city's plans were as we transition to an electric car based economy. I'm currently a 2-car household and we have electric vehicles. And I'm one of the few neighborhoods in Bremerton that has sufficient street parking, but we run into the dilemma where you can't park in the spot adjacent to your homes. And so we can't plug in to charge, and commercial infrastructure for charging is insufficient currently. So I wanted to know if it was a possibility that we could put policy in so that that citizens have assigned locations for spots in addition to the typical permitting system where we are entitled to a street side spot in an unspecified location. My second question for the city is how we intend to handle issues with public easements. I have a continuing problem in my city block where the easement is blocked, and for me to park my other car, I have to be able to enter from the northbound side, and there's often vehicles blocking it. However, vehicles cannot be towed as they are considered a domicile, regardless of whether or not someone is living in the car. And I wanted to know if there was anything we could do about it, or if the city could sell the property for private use at guaranteed that the adjacent residents have access, so that then it could be towed if there is a car in the way, since the city cannot do it on public property.
Thank you. I want to just, yeah, Mayor Wheeler, if you want to address that, and I was going to say as well, Bremerton2044.com is a way to give input to the city's comprehensive plan, so especially on future infrastructure and planning like that. Please submit a comment via that website so I can get considered.
Thank you, Council President. And Michaela, it's very nice meeting you. The specific question about the parking situation, you have my card. If you would just email me, I'd like to drill down more on that one. And as far as energy policy for the city of Bremerton, especially charging stations, maybe this is a good time to let you know I am working right now with Puget Sound Energy to bring home a significant amount of money to install charging stations throughout our city. So we are a good candidate. We're scoring well. So I'll brief you as soon as I get some more information. So that's happening. So that's a great question.
Thank you. Next up, public recognition. We'll go here again in the chambers.
Hi, Jane Rebolowski. I live in the city limits. I'm sorry that the representatives from the Navy left because there's a few things that I think we need answered as a community. There's no housing for people, and you're bringing in more people, and we don't understand why you can't provide more housing on base or build up Jackson Park, and why you're letting civilians live at Jackson Park instead of just Navy personnel is kind of strange. We have a medical crisis in Kitsap County that the Navy is adding to, closing down your emergency room, not having obstetric services. I mean, you have 40,000 people, and they probably have 100,000 kids. So we really need more support from the Navy on that. And we hope we get support from the Navy for the proposed 6th Street Road Diet, where we want to make it safe for all people to be able to bike and walk on that. And we are also doing Naval Avenue upgrades. And these are all roads that go into your base. And we want to keep it safe for your people. So we hope that you can convince more of them to commute with others instead of so many cars on the road. It makes it difficult. Most people that I know, I live in the west side, we don't even bother going anywhere between the hours of 2 and 4 because the traffic's horrendous due to shipyard letting people in and out. And I'm not trying to say we're not appreciative of the economic development you provide for the city and the county, but we also have a lot more volunteer opportunities. I saw, it seems weird that you only listed 2,000 hours in the whole year for 56,000 people. I'm sure there was more, but there's always more things to volunteer for to become more of a part of our community. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Just want to encourage that contact slide of the Navy, part of the official packet, to be able to contact them directly for any public member. And then also excellent comments for Bremerton2044.com. Keep plugging that. All right, next up, public recognition. Please go ahead.
Mary Lou Long, and I am a longtime resident of Bremerton. I was very, very happy to see the color guard present our flag. As you all know, I'm a supporter of the Pledge of Allegiance to start our city council meetings. If it wasn't for the Navy, this town probably wouldn't even exist, especially not in the capacity that it exists today. We owe an awful lot to the people that protect us. And we also owe a lot of allegiance to the country that they're representing, which is the United States of America. And our flag represents the United States of America. And we may be a small portion of that big unit, but we are all part of that body politic. Some don't like to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I was a little bit disturbed that my council member was extremely hesitant and even putting her hand over her heart when the flag came. And she did not say the Pledge of Allegiance. She said in the previous days, that she would never pledge her sacred honor to any piece of cloth. And I still remember her words to this day, and I don't appreciate her disrespect of the flag. So with that, I was in Hawaii for 3 weeks. I came to council via Zoom because I wanted to be part of the council, and I said the Pledge of Allegiance. And I noticed that, once again, council never stands for the Pledge of Allegiance until it's a very visible situation with the Navy presenting the flag. And you did stand. Thank you very much for at least having that respect of our nation's flag. And I would hope that in the future, you will see it in your wisdom and educate yourself to the reason why we do say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and reintroduce it as the beginning of our city council meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else for public recognition? Yes, we'll keep going here in the room.
I'm Mike Simpson, District 6. Born in Bremerton, lived here a long, long time. And I'd like to extend my thanks to the City Council for having the Navy to come in and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I know I'm echoing some of the comments that have been made earlier, but it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad to see that we've had a welcome change and had the flag come in and rendered the honors that it requires. It is the symbol of our nation, and it's simply a symbol of our fealty and loyalty to our country and our Constitution for allegiance to that flag. And thank you for allowing that to happen. I think that's something that we should have a lot more of. And I'd really like to say thanks to the Navy, not just because they're the largest employer in the neighborhood, but because the people that work there are the people that live in our city. The people that work there are the ones that have kept the economy in this city floating, while the rest of the country, runs around, rudderless. They're the ones that make this city what it is today. And when we forget that, we do detriment to ourselves. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public recognition? Yes, please go ahead.
Roy Runyon, Bremerton. Speaking of the Navy, there are many of us in the room who've served in the military, put our lives on the line for the country. The prediction currently, if you've read, is that by 2025, we could be facing war with the People's Republic of China over Taiwan. So the Navy will be at the forefront of that. And I was wondering, we have a Russian sister city, Sovetskaya Gavan, Soviet Harbor. We have a Japanese sister city, Kure. Why don't we have a Taiwanese sister city? Why don't we show solidarity with the people of Taiwan? Which of you brave souls is going to write up a resolution to create a sister city partnership with the Taiwanese city? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's make sure there's anybody online. Yes, there are. Okay. Let's go one more in the room here, and then we'll go to, or no, you want to go ahead, Dave? Yeah, let's go. Go ahead in the room, and then we'll go to online.
Well, hi there, Dave Cooper, and longtime resident like a lot of us. And I listened to your study session last week, and I was mentioned by name because I love the City of Bremerton app. I had an issue. It was resolved within 2 days. As soon as I posted it, the next day, and then the next day. So it was really good job to whoever handles that. Then I was mentioned again as that fellow. So I'm that fellow, Dave Cooper. And that was during your discussion about REACT and whether or not outside the City of Bremerton people should have be allowed to be on the committee. Well, I'm not interested in being on that committee, but since it was that fellow was in reference, and the reference was, well, I pay my taxes, and by gum, everybody like me should be on that committee. And I thought, okay, I'm here for clarification, right? I'm here for clarification that the reason I'm here is because I have a responsibility. And as well as you folks. I have businesses and rentals in 4 of your districts, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Not bragging, I'm just saying that with that comes responsibility. And that responsibility is that I have to make sure that my customers, my employees, my renters are safe. And the reason I'm here is because that's not happening. We have homeless and mental issues, people coming and opening up renters' doors on a single mom. Talk about freak a person out, right? Yeah. And so that's happening. I've had where people have parked their sleeping bag in a parking spot, and of course the people pulling in almost run them over. I have when you say I have strong feelings about Bremerton, and it was made light of. I have more than just strong feelings. Okay, I have responsibility to make sure that that's taken care of, right? And I don't see, the reason I'm here is because I don't see it happening. And I want to start seeing some changes. And so I was told, come to the meetings. So my input is,
And just
yes,
a second more.
I have, thank you. I have strong feelings. I'm gonna come and I'm gonna have an input. And about being run out by the gang members, and someone kind of laughed about that. It came down to responsibility.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. No, thank you so
We
much
got
for
it.
your public comment. All right, so let's go online. We'll start with Charles Michelle.
All right, thank you. My name is Charles Michelle. I'm in Eric Younger's district. First, I want to thank the council for all they do for this city. Your efforts are appreciated. So I attended the Mayor's Energy Summit a few weeks ago, and I was encouraged to hear some of the ideas and progress. And even in this meeting, we heard about the mayor's going to work with PSC to encourage more electric vehicle parking. I'd like to say I support that. I know that Seattle City Light will put in street parking, street charging, so that the cable is up elevated, so it's not available for vandals to access. But then with an app, it lowers down, and then you can plug your car in. So I would look for innovative solutions like that through PSC. So anyway, encouraged about the Energy Summit. I think it's time to walk the talk, and which I hope is what. And so in particular, this comment is about electric vehicle and bicycle parking for new developments. So you all may have seen about a week and a half ago, there was an article in the Kitsap Sun that the Kitsap County has a new ordinance requiring a certain percentage of spaces for new developments be for electric vehicles and also have covered bicycle parking. I thought it's a great move by Kitsap County. And my immediate thought was, why can't we do that here in Bremerton? We could. I have a copy of the ordinance, and I'm going to send it to all the council. And Jeff, I will also put it on the plan, coming up, the growth management plan. And so anyway, I'd like to encourage electric vehicle and bicycle parking in our city, and see if we could why can't we have such an ordinance here? Lastly, I'd like to thank the administrators for it still having the hybrid option here with these meetings. This is great. I can watch the meetings from home and still be able to provide comment. So thank you for that, and I yield back.
Thank you so much. Next up, we'll see who's next on the list. Christy Lyson, please go ahead.
Good evening, council members. I have 2 comments. First, in response to the 2 residents that spoke about the council's participation in the Pledge of Allegiance, I want to remind those residents that everyone, all of us, are protected under the First Amendment, free speech. That includes your council members. They also are entitled to free speech. And the choice whether or not to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance is covered under free speech. So it is not a sign of disrespect. Some religions preclude their members from pledging to a nation, to a flag. And so Jehovah's Witness being one of them. So in exercising someone's religious beliefs, they could not participate in Pledge of Allegiance, and it's covered under freedom of religion. Second comment I want to make, I want to go back to the discussion that occurred during the April 5th council meeting around parks. I spoke out at that meeting about the need for public facilities, public toilets downtown for our unhoused neighbors. And I just want to say the discussion around and people's adamant fervor for their need and entitlement to lovely parks in their district just sort of disappointed and astounded me when I can't get that level of fervor and commitment to giving our unhoused neighbors basic dignity and respect of public facilities in which to defecate and urinate. And it's a public health issue as well, as one of the other residents commented on. You know, some unhoused people out of desperation may, you know, try to enter houses that are not theirs, that they may think are not occupied, and so that they can use facilities. So these are problems we all need to take part in. And I love parks as much as anyone else. I absolutely love Evergreen Park. I, you know, frequent it and I love being there. And I just want the rest of my neighbors to have a modicum of the level of privilege that all of you on the council and I have. Being housed and having a steady income and not having to worry every day about how to meet my basic needs. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next up, we'll go to Marlon Cameron.
Good evening, Council. I want to remind everyone that it is tax time and that there is a new tax credit for Washington workers that started here this year in 2023. The Working Family Tax Credit is a new program that will provide payments up to $1,200 to low, moderate income individuals and families. And the amounts are based on income level and the number of qualifying children, if any. The purpose of the Working Family Tax Credit is to stimulate the local economy, promote racial equity, and support the financial stability and well-being of Washington residents and their families. The Department of Revenue is already promoting the program. While many people may have filed for their taxes, many people have not. And if they have filed and have not done that, they can reach out to workingfamilycreditwa.gov for help, or they can give my office a call, 360-373-3000, to get assistance with that. That's really important, and the Department of Revenue wants to make sure that communities that experience barriers to accessing critical information and services due to language, disability status, poverty, homelessness, and other factors are provided this information so they can take advantage of it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was just the military presented this evening. And a lot of folks have come to me and inquired about the ratio and the recruiting efforts of the employment levels of the Navy and the shipyard workers there. So I'm not sure where to go to get that information and tell the folks that are inquiring, is it that information that was provided, President, or is this something that City Council can help with? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And we'll make sure that last title slide from the Navy is included in tonight's packet. And maybe, Mayor, we can work to send that information out just so folks have an extra chance to find it. So thank you. Next up, we'll go to John. John, if you can hear us, so go ahead and unmute. Just give John another 10 seconds here, see if we can figure it out. Is there anyone else with their hand up? They did no, okay. All right, John, one last time. If you're able to hear us, we can't hear you. Try making sure you're unmuted. Okay. All right, well, seeing nobody else for public recognition, I will go ahead and close public recognition. Next up is general business.
General business item 8A, ordinance number 5471 to place a property tax levy increase for additional public safety services on the August 1st, 2023 primary ballot. Tonight we have Chiefs McGanny and Wolf.
Welcome, Chiefs. Take it away.
Good evening. Dave, do you have the... All right, so you guys get this for a second time. All right, before you tonight is the ordinance to put a property tax increase for public safety on the board. Just an overview. The reason we're bringing this forward as police and fire is the number of calls per responder has increased over the years. The number of responders it takes both police and fire to deal with emergencies now, of course, has increased with some of our law changes. The legal requirements in Washington with the WACs and RCWs and our police and fire training. Of course, the increase in population and the increase in out of service time. One of the big factors of that is with our hospital moving outside of the city and to Silverdale for both police and fire getting the units back in service. So the proposal before you is for 17 new FTEs. 9 of them would be for the fire department, 8 for law enforcement. General breakdown, the idea that we have going forward right now. It's a 2-year plan. We would hire a total of 10 FTEs in 2024 and then 7 or 8 in my math's right here. 7 in the 2025. Bringing a whole bunch of new employees on for both police and fire can be challenging, and getting everybody through academies and all the training. So that's why we've chose to break it up into a 2-year. Part of this is some of the startup costs, bringing on new employees for the fire department and police, training, cars, equipment, those type of things. So that's the complete budget breakdown. If it was a 1-year cost, would be $3.2 million. So this is what a 40-cent increase to the property tax would bring. And I want to state that this did not come to the chief and I easy. We understand that any tax increase is a burden to our taxpayers. 40 cent on a $300,000 house would be approximately $120,000, and a $400,000 house would be $160 a year. Our current assessed valuation is just over $6 million. I mean, that is revenues, and we take it out from 2024 to 2028, assuming a 1% increase, because that's what we're allowed to go state law. On the expense side is assuming a 5% increase. The end of the 5 years, we would still be able to operate in the black at a net of $108,000. So general fund, we've had some questions about the general fund and why can't the general fund handle this? So this is straight out of the budget. If we look at our current revenues for 2023, we're at just over $51 million. Our current expenses is 57. in our ending fund balance at the end of 2023 at $10. If we were to add a yearly increase of a little over $2.3 million in 17 new FTEs, the city would run out of fund balance really quick. So next, here's kind of a 10-year overview of the fund from 2012 to 2023. You can see the increase of the general fund gone from $35 million budget to 51. Our population has grown and our assessed evaluation has grown quite large. That's with all the new construction and everything, but the numbers don't keep up with the assessed evaluation and the general fund budget. Right, for the fire side, a couple of quick slides just to give some comparisons of where we're at call volume wise. And so our call volumes are a little bit different. We have Kitsap 911 numbers, and that's what these are, just so we can have an apples to apples comparison with all the fire districts versus what we really ran, because we run mutual aid, and our mutual aid calls, both police and fire, calls that were dispatched to inside the city, we get credit for. If we go out, that jurisdiction gets the credit for that call. Otherwise, we would be double dipping on call volume, and then we pay our fees to Kitsap 911 based on call volume. So we don't want to get hit twice for the same call. So in 2022, we ran just over 10,000 calls. Our minimum daily staffing, which means firefighters on the street, that doesn't include administrative staff or anything else like that. And that's the numbers. We're running 14 people. South Kitsap's running 19, Paulsville's at 7, et cetera, et cetera. If you break that down into calls per responder, we're running 757 calls per person to our nearest comparable, which is South Kitsap, which is a significantly bigger fire department than we are. They're at 662 calls per person. Just for fun, I took Paulsville, Bainbridge Island, and North Kitsap. If you took that jurisdiction, that would be a very big jurisdiction. Their minimum staffing is 25, with between those three jurisdictions running 432 calls per person. So our calls per responder have increased. And I mentioned state law. So this is a big one for us. This is WAC 296. It's our safety standard. And really it's a very long document. This is just one piece of it for engaging in firefighting, interior firefighting operations. So if somebody's house catches on fire, this says we have to have 2 in, 2 out. If we have a known rescue, you meet us at the front door when we get there and say, hey, my loved one's inside, we have to have 2 in, 1 out. Currently, our fire engines at Station 2 and Station 3 only have 2 people on. The ladder truck does have 3. We do have paramedic units in those outlying stations also, but with them being out of service longer, at the hospital more with increasing calls, they're just not as available as much. So this is a challenge to get over. And with this, will help us start getting to that point. It's not going to get us over that hill, but it'll start getting us to that point. So.
Evening, council. So one of the things we want to make clear is with the police ask, we're not asking for more, we're asking to get to a baseline level that is sustainable and we believe is functional to provide the services that our citizens deserve. So in 2007, we had about 35,000 residents and we were staffed at 66 officers. That's 1.8 per thousand. The national average for law enforcement is 2.4 per thousand. At 1.8, we have done very well. Currently, we're at 64 officers and we're at 1.4 per thousand. So we should be closer to 77, and I think we need to push that direction, especially with some of the changes. The estimates are a population of 53K by 2036. So that would require, even if we're at 1.4 and we stay there, moving into the future, start adding officers. If we're going to go back to 1.8, a standard that we noticed, we had our lowest crime rates, our best effect on crime. Leading up to those times, we were often within the most violent cities within the state. If you guys remember those times, some of you didn't remember the 90s, some of you don't even remember the 90s, but those of us that were here for them, it was quite the Wild West here in Bremerton. And the city and the citizens and your police department fought hard to make it a safe and livable place. We don't want to see it go backwards. So in 2021, there was a few things that happened the last few years. You guys probably read up on those a little bit and seen it in the newspaper. And we've had some major changes in law enforcement and for state laws. The net result of that was we have turned over quite a few officers. We have a very young department, very new department. And I've gone through these numbers with you. You guys have this. I won't belabor it. Moving on. Our crime trends from 21 into 22 were up. Crimes against persons, property crimes, and society crimes. So everything is trending upward. There's lots of different reasons for that. Next. So what we find in 2023 is after everything that's gone on, law enforcement, we're still the only behavioral health street response. And you can drive around Bremerton just about everywhere and you'll see some sort of person affected with a behavioral health issue. We're working hard with other partners and we're doing a lot of different things. We just had meetings this week with all our many partners. It's one of the biggest things that takes up a lot of our time. The other thing is we've changed how we do business in 2023. When we used to send one officer or two officers to handle an issue, we're now sending 3 or 4. We're using time, we're using distance, we're using resources. We might wait until we get a navigator on scene. We might wait until we get the right family member there. But it takes a lot longer. And what that means is you're depleted in services everywhere else. Our opioid crisis is at an all-time high. Our fentanyl deaths are on the rise. The drug laws in Washington place a burden on our local government. If they pass a drug law and they make it a misdemeanor, they have now shifted it from the state's responsibility to the city of Bremerton's responsibility. So we'll have to figure out how to fund our courts and deal with that. Law enforcement, we respond to all the drug issues. We got to keep our partners in fire safe. We respond to about 1/4 of all their calls ahead of time because they're not wearing bulletproof vests and they don't get paid, get beat up. So, and then we have geographic need. We break the city into 5 sectors for patrol. And as we've expanded out onto Anderson Hill and Skia and all of that, we're starting to see that side of town really makes sense there, which is actually officers. The bottom line is it takes more officers to address calls than we've ever done so in the past. And our practices have changed to stay up with that, with the volatile situations. We're experiencing excellent results. I'm in the habit of trying to send you guys kind of snapshots each week now, so you can see what we're up against. This last weekend was, you can cue the Benny Hill music on stolen cars. It was cue that music and it was stolen car going this way and that way and this way. So we have some unique situations going on. And so that's why we think we need to grow the police department and keep up so we don't fall too far behind. You?
Thank you, Chiefs, again for the presentation. I know we've seen it, but it's great for the public to be able to see it as well. And so with that, is there any public comment on this specific item?
I'm Kerry Bozeman, and I live in the city of Bremerton, and I had the honor of serving a couple of terms as mayor of this community. I also served 16 years on the Bellevue City Council, and I want to thank you for your service. I know how much work being a city council person is, and how you can't go to the grocery store without somebody wanting to suggest something to you. So thank you for your service. I really appreciate it. picked up my phone the other day and Al Duke's on my phone, and I haven't talked to Al Duke since he called me the last time to support a bond issue. And Al Duke was our police chief when I served as, our fire chief when I served as mayor, and just did a fabulous job. So he asked me if I'd serve on the committee to support this issue. And I said, absolutely, yes. We're living in a society and a country now where the demands for public safety are escalating every day. We can't go on television without saying someone's been shot, multiple people have been shot. The issue of public safety is only gonna grow and become more important. And all the years I was an elected official, I always did understand that the public believed being safe was the most critical job I had. And if they didn't feel safe leaving their house, then I was letting them down. So I just want to encourage you to put this on the ballot. We put one on the ballot, a public safety issue just like this during my term as mayor. And it passed, and we built the new fire station downtown, and we bought the old Kitsap Credit Union building on Burwell, and we put the police department in there, and we put money aside to put the courthouse downtown. So and I think we bought the big ladder truck. Bought the big ladder truck. So a lot of good residual from that. But that was, I don't know how many years ago was that? 05. So we're due. So thank you for considering this. I hope you put it out for the public to give them a choice about their public safety in our community. And thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else for public recognition? Yes, Mr. Oblasky.
Generally, I wouldn't say, yes, please increase my taxes, but I believe that the de-escalation policies that our department is using are well worth it. And we definitely need to increase funding for both police and fire. I wish that the police were not the first responders for all mental health crises, but seeing as our other partners aren't partnering very well, it looks like it's going to remain the police for a while. But one thing I would like to point out to you is there was $170 million worth of untaxed properties this year. All the multifamily tax exemptions that were granted to the 606, Spyglass Hill, Sound Quincy B Flats, Burwell Subsidy, Bay Vista, Sound West 1, Sound West 2, and the 1010 apartments. That $170 million would have brought in $2.4 million in taxes, which is almost exactly what they're going to be asking us for. So by not considering doing away with the multifamily tax exemption, you are now asking all the citizens, retirees, young families to pay for it so that developers don't have to pay property tax. But I'm definitely in favor of this going to the voters, and I hope it passes.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Michaela Permentine, District 6. I would like to say, like, I was a firefighter in the Navy, and, you know, I think that we can expect degradation in response services if police and fire don't get their funding. And the difference between a 4-minute response time and a 10-minute response time can mean massive property damage or injury or death for residents. And I have been very fortunate in that the Bremerton Police and Fire Department have always been able to show up within the time that I need them, and I always support their increases in funding. And I know that we all agree that perhaps like the police deal with more than they should, and maybe it isn't necessarily the best way to go about it, but this is what we have for now. And I have lived in an area without enough funding and with very low taxes. And it takes 35 minutes for the fire department to get to you. And when someone's at your house with a gun, you have to deal with it yourself. And that is the scariest thing you can ever imagine. And anyone who hasn't had to deal with that is very, very fortunate. And I encourage residents to consider, you know, the taxes are something we pay for a civilized society. Not to be all socialist on you, but for me, $120 a year on my taxes for that peace of mind is always going to be worth it. That $12 a month is more than, it's less than my Netflix bill. I mean, come on. So, so I always consider people to do that. I don't always vote property tax increases, but when it comes to fire and police and safety, I always will.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Cooper.
My comment would be, I would hope that all of you folks would get behind it. I know that you're probably going to put it out for the public, but what I would like to see is the council get behind it and promote it. That alone will send a message out there. Either that or please budget the money that's necessary. You know, where do you get the money? That's your job. But somehow this really does have to be addressed. So please get in there and back that up. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Attorney Fennell, I just want to clarify that city and us and our city positions cannot support or oppose any particular ballot measure, but in our personal capacities as residents. Okay. Can use city resources to promote ballot measures. Okay, thank you.
Roy Runyon, and just to answer for Jane, my fellow citizen Jane, really good points, good research, Jane. You know, we enacted the multi-family property tax abatement to encourage development and to rebalance our economy here. And so there's a timeline, and some of those abatements should be expiring pretty soon here. So just wonder what the impact of that would be. That would be positive for us. I have an alternative view about the fire issue. When I was on the council, I advocated for discussing with our neighboring districts consolidation. You know, if we go on this continuing trajectory, we're going to run out of money. We're not going to be able to we'll have one firefighter for the whole county at some point in the future. You know, if you look at the economics, Bremerton, as you know, is a relatively poor city next to Port Arthur. We're the poorest city in the county. So I would have preferred, and you may have had these discussions, I have been following it, but you may have had a discussion to consider reopening talks about consolidation with the other fire districts, especially South Kitsap. You know, the numbers that were presented regarding the number of responses, number of firefighters on duty at any one time. So the average for department was 472, and yes, we're high. Most of those responses are medical. There's another thing that we can consider is actually partnering with some of the private providers of ambulance service to beef up their capability and offload that. So I know you're all out of the box thinkers. I know you're all very familiar with the budget and the challenges we're going to face down the road, you know, not in the next budget year, but 5-10 years down the road. If we go into a recession, which many people are predicting, our tax base may be decimated as far as the sales tax part of it, and also the automobiles. So you're going to put it to the voters, and Jane, your fellow voters will raise your taxes.
All right, thank you. Please go ahead.
Council members, my name is Dr. Karen Bolton. I'm a Bremerton resident. I want to thank the chiefs. Good to see you again, Chief. I still owe you a cup of coffee. I do support this as a Bremerton resident. You're absolutely right. $120, I don't mind paying that. We do need to expand to get a station out more toward Kitsap Lake where I'm at, because we're starting to see more issues there. What I did not hear was is some of the things that have been disturbing about the hiring within the police department and the fire department. I didn't hear anything about equity, race. How are you going to recruit get more diverse candidates within the police force and the fire department? That is something that I know that the REACT Commission, once it can help with that, the diversity officer, but we do need to diversify some of these institutions that are not really diverse. And it's not just for people of color within the city of Bremerton, it's for other people so they can see Bremerton really is getting into the 20th century where we have a more diverse workforce. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Craig Patty, president of the Bremerton Firefighters. I serve as a captain in the fire department. I have been with the fire department for 17.5 years. You would see in the annual report for 2022 a 60.7% increase in call volume for the fire department in the last 10 years, since 2012 to 2022. To give you a little perspective, I even went a little bit deeper. And from 1992, when our fire chief was a fairly new rookie, to 2012, that 20-year period, our call volume increased just over 50%. So we have seen a massive compounding in time increase of call volume. As a person, I still ride the fire engine every shift. And so I feel I can speak a little bit more to what we are seeing at the 3 a.m. calls. And every speaker is right. It's changing. Out there in the street is changing. I would push back against the police chief a little bit. 3 of my station's calls last shift were behavioral health calls. 2 of those were fentanyl related. Firefighters, thank you for considering this and putting it on the ballot. We do need help. The system is stressed, and it's due to the commitment of the firefighters and the police officers out on the street responding to those calls that the system hasn't broken yet. And really quickly to speak to Mr. Runyon's comment, the ambulance companies are struggling to staff their ambulances too. Everybody is stressed right now with being able to staff units, answer the calls for help, wait times. The chief mentioned the comment about WAC 296. As a company officer, that is forefront of my head every time we go out to a reported fire, especially if my medic unit's not there. What am I going to do? I have to make an impossible decision. If someone's life is in danger, I will make that decision. But it's a decision that we can help mitigate with some help. So thank you for the consideration. We're here for you. We're here for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Check online to see if anybody for public comment. We have 2. For folks wondering, I gotta wait for a window to be shown with hands, or Dave, you'll just say the name. Christy Lyson, please go ahead.
Good evening again. I also support taxes for our public safety and fire rescue.
Christy, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. Can't hear you yet. It might be muted.
I am not muted. Can you hear me?
Can't hear anything. Okay. There are a few more seconds here.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Okay. Try again. There we go. All right. I think that was on our end.
Okay, thank you. This is like, I'm unmuted. I don't know what else to do. I also believe in taxes for public safety and fire and rescue and paramedics, definitely. I just have some questions, and I also wanted to echo Dr. Karen Bolton's comments about diversity on our police force, and that's very important for the multitude of reasons that she stated. I am wondering about how the ratio of, I don't know if it was like taking the pot of money and divvying it up between the fire department and the law enforcement end of things, like how a fire department decided they'll get 9 positions and law enforcement will get 8. I wasn't sure how that decision was made. And I follow BPD on my social media, and I noticed, that they're continuing to offer a $25,000 sign-on bonus to get new police officers. And so it begs the question for me of how many open positions there are currently, and like how that will impact if you get more funding for more positions. What happens to that funding if you aren't able to fill even your current positions or the allotted new positions? So I'm curious about that. I also am wondering about why these 2 levies are being grouped together, because I think some residents may be supportive of one over the other, and I would hate for the entire thing to fail because they're lumped together, and maybe that's not how voters want to be able to vote on them. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Next, go to whoever's next online, so I can't see at the moment.
Oh, shoot.
There we go, Marlon Cameron.
Council, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Go ahead.
All right. I too would like to elevate Dr. Bolton's comments there. I'll move on to Mayor Bozeman. And in his comment, he talked about residents feeling safe when they leave their homes. And there are so many of these responses to our folks that are unhoused, that don't have homes. And it's understandable how there could be mental health and drug addiction and alcohol and violence and all the other things that come with it when those things aren't addressed. And I think that we're seemingly to working this problem backwards. And if we had the political will to address the unhoused, then we may actually be able to solve this problem. All of that being said, another person in the room talked about $12 a month. And so I wonder, what would it take to have the political will and the will of the community to serve the unhoused and get them housed, get them the mental health that they need? The last thing that I'll say is Christy spoke about having the levies together. I'm probably the one dissenting voice in that. I do not believe that this levy should go through with the police and the fire together. I think it should be separated out. If it is truly $12 a month per person, then I think it should be easy enough to pass. Thank you.
And thank you. Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Council President. Mike Simpson. I live in District 6, longtime resident of the city of Bremerton. So the fire chief mentioned that there are 700 plus responses, and thank you for our firefighters, and thank you for our cops. We love our heroes, and we want to make sure that they get funded. We got to remember that in the city right now, if there's one residential fire and we deploy all of the folks that are currently assigned to duty, we still have to bring in an outside agency to help out, because there's 3 bodies that they need so they can go and fight that residential fire. And this levy is important, but if it doesn't succeed, if the council does vote to approve putting the levy on the budget or on the ballot, and it fails to go through, is the council willing to consider realigning our fire agency with Central Kitsap Fire and with South Kitsap Fire? Because that is a study that has been done 10 years ago that showed it was a huge cost-cutting move for the city and for the people that live here, and would still provide a better level of service than what we have now. And to address some of the other comments, we shouldn't base any of our hiring on appearance, simply because, well, that contradicts state and federal law. We should hire the most qualified individuals regardless of what they look like. And we should keep it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Else online? Nope, seeing no. Anyone else in the room? Okay, with that, I will close public comment on this item, and I'll go to the council for a motion. I guess Councilmember Chamberlain.
Move to approve ordinance number 5471 as presented.
I'll second that. All right, we have a motion and a second. We are open for discussion.
Chief Wolf, I need to say that I'm really offended because I believe everybody here remembers the 90s. So we are not that young. Thank you for coming back, chiefs, both of you, multiple times, public safety study sessions. I wanted to kind of just jump, because everybody else here is going to be like, oh, we love you. We need a safe community. We're so excited about this. And you know that I've had a lot of questions for you, a lot of asks about, data and what's going to happen. And I just really appreciate that you've come, that you've answered those questions, that you've come with more data when I've asked, even though you know that you're probably going to get most of the support of council, if not all. And so thank you for answering my tough questions. And I really, I do believe in the wisdom of the voters. They got me here. They got most of us here. So I just wanted to say to everybody that I support this, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dennehy.
Thank you. Thank you, chiefs, for the presentation, the time you took in Public Safety Committee to explain it, really laying the groundwork, because I think a unanimous vote of council will speak volumes for when it goes to the voting public. The biggest things that I'm thinking about when I cast my vote is, right, public safety, right? Not just safety of officers, which is extremely important, or safety of firefighters, but those that interact with the criminal justice system, alleged perpetrators. We've seen some really horrible outcomes in cities and departments that don't train their officers well, that don't bring de-escalation tactics to the forefront, that don't have multiple officers on the scene sometimes, where people can call each other out on what the law and the policy requires. So not only do I want to support this because the numbers demand it, but the outcomes that we're looking for in this city, especially with officers, alleged perpetrators, those that interface with the fire department. I never want Bremerton to be in the national news because our public safety officials did the wrong thing in those very tense situations. So I want to make sure that you all receive the funding, that you receive, that your officers receive the training that you really want to see in good policing. And more importantly, or not more importantly, but just as importantly, speaking to Dr. Bolton's statement and Mike Simpson's statement, you know, my job is to enforce Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And so, yes, absolutely, you can't hire based on any protected class characteristics, but there can be some really smart things that go into hiring and recruiting to make sure that we're not closing the door to people of diverse backgrounds who would make excellent police officers and represent the community that we're in. You know, around 35% BIPOC. So I'm excited for this, and I look forward to seeing how multiple departments can help you grow the department in a really smart and effective way for the 21st century.
The other council member for comment on this? Yes, Councilmember Fry.
As chair of the Public Safety Committee, I want to extend my appreciation to the chiefs for your willingness to come back again and again and to take some coaching on how to present this to be successful. I know it took a lot of work. I know there might have been some frustration, and I truly appreciate it. And I think the Public Safety Committee felt that you did a very good job of answering all of our questions. You know, I think when the thought of combining these two together put some people off, and yet those of us who have had to rely on emergency services know that you both respond. And I can remember, I think it was, 45 years ago at Cottage Hospital in Santa Barbara. I was in the emergency room after being beaten by my husband. It was a firefighter that first approached me after escorting me in the ambulance and told me that I didn't deserve that. It was a law enforcement who validated that a little bit later, and I'll never forget that. They were a team, and they had my best interests at heart. Did I listen to them? No, but that's a story for another time. So I strongly believe that our department has done a great job with very little. And I look forward to seeing what this investment brings to the departments and to the people of Bremerton. So thank you both.
Other council member for comment? Councilmember Mochler.
Thanks, President Compton. So Chiefs, congratulations on, what is this, the fourth or fifth iteration of your bringing this to us? Thank you for refining over and over. And I think I'd like to especially thank Chief Wolf for being open to new ideas about working with people who have behavioral health difficulties or who are undergoing a mental health crisis. Chief McGanny, thank you and Chief McGanny, for both of you. Really have the best wishes for this levy's success. Thank you.
Another council member? All right, we'll wrap it up. I just have one question, Chiefs, if you don't mind coming back up, and then a quick comment. I just wanted to address the comment about the breakdown of 9 fire and 8 police. My understanding is that once the money comes in, that is an excellent proposal that you will put forth, but we are not locked into that. As needs change and situation changes, we're able to shift that funding between police and fire departments.
The reason there's 8 and 9 is the 9th position for the fire department is trying to get our administrative assistant back that we lost. 09. Okay. We currently have 1 administrative assistant for almost 70 employees. So that's where the inequity comes. But I would like to address one thing, at least for the fire department, on hiring. We, over the last year, have been able to change our hiring practices and been able to take the EMT requirement out, which has opened up our hiring pools significantly. So there's not that requirement because we run our own EMT class and our own fire academy now here in Kitsap County. So that's changed a lot who can apply. So EMT was always a big barrier to get over, just because it's 3 months of school and you got to get some experience. So we've been able to do that. So it has changed the applicant pool for us.
Excellent, thank you.
President, would you indulge me in one comment?
I can indulge you.
Thank you. I want to talk about diversity. And Dr. Bolton, so I want to challenge everybody, when we talk about diversity, the Bremerton Police Department is diverse. Is it diverse? Welcome diversity? Absolutely. You should see our department. I think we're probably the most diverse department in the city. And we're continuing to grow. So when you talk about this, and you at home too, please, when you talk about the diversity of our police department, don't talk about it in a negative, because now people that are diverse might say, no, I don't want to go work for that department. We want you, okay? But right now, we're a crisis in Washington State. We've lost 600 officers statewide. We are the lowest staffed state in the nation for police officers. So it's hard enough to get any less when we send a message that we don't appreciate diversity. We absolutely appreciate diversity. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends. We're hiring. We absolutely want everybody. We welcome everybody. So,
No, thank you. And to the question of the money there, I think one reason I actually like the fact that you're combined is because I've seen how well you work together. When there's a call, I know there's a lot of overlap and a lot of calls where both police, firefighters, and EMTs respond. And so I think this goes hand in hand, and I'm really impressed by the way the two of you and your departments work so well together and collaborate. So to me, this is kind of one big family and one big pool of money to do the most good with. I just want to give my thanks to you two again for the presentation and being so thorough with this, and I think so well justifying to the voters the case to vote for this. We talk a lot about public safety, and a lot of times I like to add in the word and support, public safety and support, because I think a lot of what you do is on the support line. Just the other month, I was talking to, I guess I call him a local bartender who I go to most often. And she mentioned that she was getting ready to close up one night, and someone came into the bar and very calmly went up to her and said, I think I've overdosed him. I think I'm going to die, and collapsed on the floor. And I believe it was a fentanyl overdose. And so the bartender called, and she said within literally a minute, and I can't remember who showed up first, whether it was fire or police, but one was right behind the other. And they had Narcan on them, and they were able to save that person's life. So I am really proud of our police and fire departments. I really think we have excellent ones in the city. We talk about Narcan, but life-saving measures. We have the few mental health navigators. I know, excellent training in the city. So I have no problem supporting it. And honestly, my constituents did when I went door knocking. Literally 95%. I added up the numbers. Loved our local police department. And fire was, I think, 100%. Or we'll call you both 95. So there's no favorites. Not yeah. But no, it was really high. I was really surprised. Before I went door knocking, I didn't know what the local community thought, and to me, it was quite clear that you had their support. And as far as the tax goes, no one likes to raise taxes. I wish as a state we had some more progressive tax options. But that said, this is like the most progressive at our options at our disposal that we can use as a city. And so I just fully support this going to the voters and giving them a chance to weigh in, and they get to select the level of service they have. So thank you both so much. And with that, I will call for the question.
Councilmember Fry,
Yes.
Dennehy,
Yes.
Goodnow,
Yes.
Mochler,
Yes.
Younger,
Yes.
Chamberlain,
Yes.
Coughlin.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is general business item 8B, proposed ordinance to add BMC chapter 2.34 regarding creation of a race equity advisory commission. This is for public comment only.
Perfect. And Attorney Fennell, I don't know if you want to just set it up. I know we have one slide to present, and I do want to reiterate that tonight we're just taking public comments. There'll be no council remarks and no vote. And then we'll have next study session to discuss and take to heart all that public feedback, and then hopefully come at the very first meeting in May for another public discussion and possible vote.
Sure, we could have the first slide. So as the slide indicates, the council has been considering the creation of an advisory commission. The title as presented in the packet is a Race Equity Advisory Commission. Possible alternatives that have been discussed at study sessions before this meeting have included a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Commission, a Social Justice and Equity Advisory Commission. And so the council has been considering those, but the way it's drafted right now is for a Race Equity Advisory Commission. The council's also been considering expanding the scope to include sex, gender, age, sexual orientation, disability, and or socioeconomic status. And that ties in with considering other names for the commission. There's also been a discussion about the membership requirements to be on the commission. Under our charter, there's a provision that states that all committee and commission and board members shall be community members here that live here within the city limits of Bremerton, but it allows exceptions to that if it's indicated that creates the commission. And so as it was presented earlier this year by Councilmember Dennehy, there was a residency requirement that the person being considered live in the city limits of Bremerton or have a Bremerton address. At the last study session, that was changed to just be a person who resides in the city limits. And so that's something else that the council's been considered. I think President Coughlin also requested information about whether it could be the Bremerton urban growth area. So that's something else that's been discussed. Things that are required though under our charter that can't be changed are the appointment requirements. And that's that the members of the board, committee, or commission be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by council.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the summary. With that, I'll open public comment on this item. Before I'll have to limit comments to exactly 3 minutes. So apologies if I have to cut anybody off in advance. Yes, Ms. Frydlowski.
Yes, I strongly feel that you must live within the city limits of Bremerton to be on any board or commission. There's people that the post office has made to believe that they live in Bremerton, they don't pay taxes. I get mail, I live in the 4th district in the center of town, and I get mail that says I live in Gorst. But I don't think anybody who does not live and pay, there's people who don't pay property tax, of course, but you must live within the city limits to be on any committee. If you want to be on the committee so bad, you can move here, because although it's getting expensive. Thank you.
And thank you. Yes, Ms. Runyon.
Yes, and I do live in the city of Bremerton. I do pay city taxes. I do have a Bremerton postal code. And I do pay utility tax on my water and sewer bill, like some folks who do not live in the city pay. So they actually pay tax, but they're not represented. Interesting. So maybe you ought to let folks who pay utility tax be a member of that. Anyway, I do want to say I did participate and or witnessed how the REACT committee performed. And I could tell you I was not impressed. Very concerned about how a commission would operate. Some of the things that I experienced and or witnessed, members insulting one another, members storming off the meeting, leaving the room, cutting off the meeting, insulting the people, the citizens who participated, folks making racist statements. My concern is that with a commission, we're going to institutionalize or systematize racism. You know, in a society where the most important thing is what you look like, the color of your skin, your immutable physical characteristics, that is a racist society. Sounds like, Nazi Germany. They had a whole system for classifying people based simply on their physical appearance. It meant nothing. My concern is that we're going that way with this. So if you're looking for systemic racism, you are on the verge of creating an institution that will help lead us to that. And by the way, just to remind you and the attorneys out there, there is a law in the state of Washington that prohibits affirmative action. That was a citizen initiative. It was reaffirmed several election cycles ago. So I see this effort to kind of get around that. I don't know if it's for PR purposes or because, it's virtue signaling. I'm not sure what it is. And the last point I want to make, police, fire, any department we have, we need qualified people. It doesn't matter what you look like, how you're classified by the government or anybody on the council. We need classified people, or we need qualified people who are willing to do the work. And that's the most important thing about this country. Who was it? Martin Luther King Jr. said something about, don't judge me based on the color of my skin, but the content of my character. What happened to that? Why have we abandoned that wonderful idea that so many people have sacrificed so much for? Thank you.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Daryl Riley, businessman, entrepreneur in this community. And before I say anything, Roy Runyon is exactly proof why I need to be up here. Eric Younger, I want to thank you, man. I've not always been a fan of yours, but I listened to you in the study session, and I listened to you look at the information and process the information correctly. And I was surprised at what you stated, but I want to thank you for that. I want to thank the rest of y'all too. Mr. Goodnow, Quinn Dennehy, and Jessica. But you other three, let's talk about this for a second. Not only did I was the first person they ever got put on the racial equity advisory committee. I was the first person they brought on, and I helped interview everybody else, right? So most of the stuff that you seeing up there, I helped craft it. It's appalling to me. Well, let me just go down the line. Ms. Mocker, you not only get disrespectful to the parks people, you disrespectful to every Black person, every person of color that you come across. out of your ignorance. And the only reason you don't get it real bad is because I know it's not malicious. You know what I'm saying? But I know you need to figure out when you should say something and when you shouldn't. And if that might be racist in nature or not, because you make too many mistakes for it not for it to be all mistakes. Miss Fry, I'm surprised that you sit here and call yourself a feminist, but you want to be comfortable in your whiteness. And you want to tell the rest of these people that you're not comfortable with the word race. Well, I'm not coming in here. I'm not comfortable that I don't know black people working this building either, or no people of color other than what you see in here. So I think you was wrong and disrespectful. You work for me. And we told you in the committee what we wanted, in the Empowered Racial Equity Advisory Committee. We didn't say because you want to be comfortable in your whiteness that you get to decide as a person who's just been put on the council that all the work that we've done over 30 months should be dismissed because you want to be comfortable. Y'all got a constitutional lawyer on the council and you won't even listen to him. Jeff, really surprised at you. That you would go all the way to Lacey or wherever the hell you went to find somebody to talk to you about why race shouldn't be in here when you got a plethora of us who you've been trying to meet with over the last several months. You ain't asking none of us about it. So what makes you think it's right for you to do that? So if you hold the LGBTQ flag up here and the colonialism flag, sooner or later your arm's gonna get tired. So which one are you gonna hold up? So I suggest that you guys don't create a situation for yourself. Well,
Just a 10-second warning.
she live in District 6. We finna try to get some people out of here because y'all can't continue to do us like that. And now I've been here 30 months. You're gonna disband all of us and pay somebody else to do the work that I've been doing for 30 months.
Just 3 minutes, Mr. Riley.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
See you at the ballot box.
All right, anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. My name is Leslie Dowgs. After over a decade on council, I chose to step away because I felt I had been sidelined and wasn't able to do the work I was elected to. I have been away, but I have continued to watch your work. I have heard council members put words in my mouth during council meetings and study sessions. This includes last week's study session. To move to create a race equity advisory committee was brought forward by citizens of the city of Bremerton. I championed it when I was on city council, but this came from the citizens you represent. The people who brought it forward saw challenges around diversity with elected officials and the government business of the city. They sought to have a point of advisory and a voice with the city council on policies being made. One of those individuals had sought an appointment with the city council, and a council member at the time took him aside and told him he was not qualified. That council member outright lied to the individual who was seeking appointment to keep the scary Black man off council. The attempt to start REACT was rocky and not supported by council. I had comments made by fellow council members that this was all on you. And another council member compared this in this manner. It's like mixing vanilla ice cream and poop and expecting it to taste good. The move to disband or minimize the citizens' efforts began before the REACT even started. Now it's being discussed to remove this work from the citizens even further and make sure that is controlled. Being a representative form of government is difficult and messy. REACT should not be shut down because they present hard and difficult conversations. There is no question in my mind that the city, the council, the world have systemic problems. I, as a council member, was challenged as I would attend meetings and would be the only person of color at the table. Even today, our council is white. Where are the people of color? They are in the committee of REACT. They are your representatives. Our council does not represent the demographics of our city. I have some 20 recent census maps that shows the city of Bremerton, and it will be open for public as it is being given to the council. These maps show your city of Bremerton and it shows the demographics of our community. I believe the council spends a lot of time trying to limit interactions with the citizens they represent because it is uncomfortable and difficult. When I was on council, I sought out those that disagreed with me and people with opinions that made me feel uncomfortable. To move from REACT to DEI and formed by the mayor is wrong. DEI is the new buzzword around many businesses operated by white individuals. You and the mayor represent the
10 second warning.
citizens of Bremerton. And we need to continue to have a voice in race equity. Policies are being made that could gentrify our neighborhoods.
No, that's 3 minutes. Well, thank you so much.
So I want to end it with saying, do not get rid of REACT and do not bring the DEI in.
Sorry, I'll be fair on the 3 minutes.
Pass
Thank
those
you.
maps out too.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
Mike Simpson, I live in District 6, longtime resident of Bremerton. I was on the city council when we voted for to have the race, equity, diversity, inclusion advisory. And I spoke against it because I saw what was going to happen. And I saw the circus that would happen with, I could see it. And I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. Folks were going to come in and view everything through the prism of racism, whether they said that they were racist or not, because that's what it does. It focuses on what divides us rather than what unites us. And what unites us is that we're all people that live in Bremerton. We're all one community. We're all one people. We're Bremerton people. And that's who we should focus on. Now, the vote tonight is whether you're going to turn this from a committee, an advisory committee, into a mayor-driven commission. And I would strongly encourage you to change that slightly, change the motion, or make a motion to change it so that the residency requirement is from each district. Because each district should be represented, and it should be people who live in Bremerton. This should be a commission that's part of the city, and it should be part of each district, so that no district is left out, because every district is different. Every district has its own unique flavor, and it's all part of what makes Bremerton a melting pot for the whole place. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for clarification, again, there's no vote on this item tonight. It's just public input only. Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Michaela Permentine, District 6. I don't have a firm opinion one way or the other about this. I just kind of have questions as to what the goal of the committee is. Like, does the committee cost the city money? How does the mayor feel about it if he's the one who has to make the appointments? Because if he doesn't want to be involved, and this is something the citizens want, that is a conflict of interest. So is this the way to go about it? I want everyone to feel welcome. And, is this the way to do it? Is there another way to do it? I don't know, but I feel like I need more answers to these questions as to what is this advisory committee going to do? What are their goals and impact? Because it is a real problem. Let's be real. The nation is 60% white. Our leadership isn't 60% white. Is this the way to address it? I don't know that or not, but it is something that we need to think about. I'm a Caucasian woman. I get that I'm coming from a place of where a lot of things that people of color have to deal with, I don't really have to deal with. And, I can ignore this, but I'm curious and I want to know more to see if I can educate myself, and I want to be supportive where I can, but I don't want people that look like me to feel like they're not welcome. There's the balance. I think we can try to be more inclusive. And I'd like to see less contention if we can. I feel like going about it aggressively. Everybody has strong feelings, but I think we should take a deep breath and say, maybe I have something to learn here, whether they're right or wrong. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Thank you. Any public comments online? Sorry, let's just go online real quick. I realize I'm kind of doing room first and online. It's not quite fair. So let's go to Marwan Cameron and then Christy Lyson, and then we'll go back to the room.
City Council, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. A bit disgusted by the study session last week and some of the comments that were made, especially by Councilwoman Frey. She quoted Frederick Douglass, and another gentleman in the room quoted M.L. King. And typically, what folks do when they want to dismantle these types of movements is they quote Black heroes and then try to use those quotes against us. But they're very selective on what they pick. But here's a quote from Frederick Douglass. Power concedes nothing without a demand, and it never did and it never will. From PBS.org, when the 19th Amendment became law on August 26, 1920, 26 million adult female Americans were nominally eligible to vote. However, Indigenous women, the first generation of white suffragists, had studied Native communities to learn from the model of government that included women as equal democratic actors. But the suffragists did not advocate for Indigenous women. With the passage of the Snyder Act in 1924, American-born Native women gained citizenship. But until late 1962, individual states still prevented them from voting on contrived grounds such as literacy tests, poll taxes, and claims that residence on the reservation meant one wasn't also a resident of the state. Asian women, 1952, under the Nationality Act. Latinx women, well, that didn't happen until 1935. And it took until 1975 extension of the Voting Rights Act that prohibited discrimination against language against minorities. For African American women, some African American suffragists in the North were able, with the 19th Amendment, to realize the rewards of their activism, but through much of the country, the same voter suppression tactics that kept Black men from the polls kept Black women from voting too. Those same literacy tests, poll taxes, voter ID requirements, intimidation and threats, and active violence were all obstacles. Sounds a lot like what we had in our presidential election. Again, Black women in the early 1800s continued until activists such as Fannie Lou Hamer and Diane Nash won the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, 200 years later. Our history, which is trying to be erased, the massive overlooked role of feminine slave owners or female slave owners. It is estimated that 40% of slave owners may have been white women. Most Americans know that George Washington owned enslaved people at the Mount Vernon home, but fewer probably knew that his wife Martha, who dramatically increased the enslaved population there, when they were wed in 1759, George may have owned 18, but Martha was one of the richest women in Virginia, owned 84. Jim Crow. It begins to make sense why 500,000 white women joined the Ku Klux Klan, and those who attended the thousands of lynchings and African-American men, women, and children carried out across the nation in half of the 20th century. It also reveals why white women in the South and the North were often at the forefront of the anti-integration movement during the Civil Rights era. Another quote from Frederick Douglass: "There is no Negro problem. The problem is whether the American people have loyalty enough, honor enough, patriotism enough to live up to their own Constitution." React is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's go to Christy Lyson online next.
Thank you. And I apologize, I did not have much opportunity to organize my comments very well, so I probably will be sort of scattered. I want to first echo the sentiments of Leslie Dawgs, who spoke very eloquently on the subject and the importance of REAC, and that it stay REAC and not get watered down by calling it DEI or some other version of DEI. I now want to move to, and also want to echo Marwan's very eloquent comments and very learned and educated historical references. I want to start with a quote. "One doesn't have to operate with great malice to do great harm. The absence of empathy and understanding are sufficient." And sorry, I got to put my readers on. That is by Charles M. Blow. I personally know several council members, and I know from looking at you all and how you operate, and also from my personal relationships with the mayor and several council members, that you all have great hearts and you're coming from a great place, and you do your darndest to do your due diligence on the topics that you tackle, and that you come at it with good critical thinking, to the best of your ability. At the same time, you will never know what it means to walk through life with brown or black skin. You have your reference. We all, as human beings, and how our brains develop and how our brains make sense of the world is by categorizing and by having bias based on our experiences in life. And I guarantee you that your experiences walking through life as either white men and even white women, your world and your lens is shaped by your experiences as a white person walking through the world. And so I would just strongly encourage you, council, that when you're having these discussions, you have only white people at the table right now. You do not have any person of color to represent the voices of the people of the residents of color in our fair city. And they need to be at the table. If not as council members, as members of the community that are advising you about what our community need and what everyone in our community needs to feel included in their participating in government and participating as members of the city, as residents, and being respected. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go back to the room here, Ms. Long.
So Mary Lou Long, longtime resident of Bremerton. I don't know why people feel they cannot come and vent or press for change or give their opinions on things before the council. I came to the city council, I came to the city of Bremerton when we had a 3-commissioner form of government. And I worked very hard with some other people in the city to change the 3-commissioner form of government into the district form that we have now, where we had individuals representing individual districts. If there's a miscommunication or non-communication between the people in the district and the representative, each one of us has a responsibility to go to our district council member and talk with them, tell them what their needs are, work with them, get their neighbors in that same district together to work for the betterment of the district and the city. I think we live in a democratic republic where we have a democratic voting process, but we're represented by individuals. Isn't that the way we work? So I don't know why there's this conversation of having to establish some other commission or committees or whatever to address issues in our community. Each one of us has a responsibility to voice our objections to things, to voice our interest in things, and to also advocate for improvements. So I think that this is sort of a moot issue as far as I'm concerned about appointing anything or anybody, because we all share in that responsibility. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public recognition? Ms. Bolton.
Hello, Dr. Karen Bolton, Bremerton resident. I'm here to address, I had the pleasure of watching your executive session, and I was angry, appalled, mad, and disappointed at you, Councilwoman Frey, and at you, Councilwoman Mockler. When you make a reference about it's the Negro hour and you compare it to women's suffrage, you're wrong in saying that. You're wrong. Because the women's suffrage movement, right? That was not a quote from Frederick Douglass. That was a quote from Mr. Wendell, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm going to educate you because I originally came here to ask for your resignation and to put you on notice. I could have called you, I could have texted you, could have asked you out for coffee, but I think this needs to be part of the public record because I'm disgusted by it. But I'm going to use this as an educational moment because I'm an educator and that's what I do. First of all, the women's suffrage movement and the movement in the Negro hour, it was supposed to be the Negroes' turn to be able to vote and to be able to be have more alien rights than the other people, white people that enslaved them, right? So when you bring up the women's suffrage movement, it triggers me because guess who was left out of that discussion? Black women. Black women were left out of that discussion. So it isn't bad enough that our last administration wants to make America great again and take us back to 18 whatever. But when I hear the council people, when you discuss that and you try to take us back to that time, I'm not having it. It's wrong for you to do that. I can't even believe that you went there. So please educate yourself on that and never use that term ever again. It was wrong. Had you had left the REACT committee, which I was a part of, and yes, I got into REACT. I was appointed in August, and I know it was not the greatest thing to transition. Had you had a REACT committee help you with that, the optics of the 7 of you all in that room having that discussion is not good. Please do better. Get this commission together, right? You have my support. You need to hire the DE&I person, get these people done. Just, y'all don't need to have that discussion. Let the commission handle that. But you don't have people come here and ask questions and wrongly quote Martin Luther King. Allow the commission to do that work, right? So I'm going to leave you with a more current quote that you can use. When you know better, you do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bolton. Anyone else for public comment on this item? Checking anyone else online? Okay, I just want to thank everybody for their public comment. As I said, we'll go to study session next week to discuss it all and continue this year-long process. Thank you. And with that, I believe that concludes general business. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to council reports. Since this is the last council meeting of the month, we'll start with District 7, Councilmember Eric Younger.
Thank you. I usually have a report. Usually I'm more talkative in study session. When I come out here, I look forward to as large a crowd as possible to hear people's opinions on various topics. So I like to just kind of soak it in. Tonight was good. There was a varied opinions. There's no doubt about it, but I appreciate everybody speaking their opinions. So I just want to say thank you to all of you so I can educate myself some more on this issue. Discussions. I was also happy to see, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4 former council members in the audience, which is good to see. A former fire chief, we had a former mayor, and it's just really good to see everyone. So, I'd like to see you here more often, believe it or not. I'd like to hear the Jane's heard me say this maybe before. More people come down here and let us know your opinions. That's what's important. And it's such a small minority of people that come down here and talk, but boy, you have a lot of leverage because it's such a small group compared to some communities. So you want your voice to be heard and magnified, come on down here or speak online. I prefer you come down here. I'd like to actually see you. And I think you get a lot more out of the in-person. But thank you again for showing up tonight, and thank you for your opinions.
Next up, we have District 6, Councilmember Anna Mockler.
No report.
Thank you. Next up will be District 5, Councilmember Michael Goodnow.
Yeah, I will echo what Councilmember Younger said. As far as having folks here, it really is great. And don't be, always follow up with an email also, just so we have, everybody's full thoughts. And those will always get attached to the packet of what we're working on. I had a couple of things I was going to mention, but it was just, I thought we had a really good, a lot of information tonight, and I don't remember what I was going to.
Sounds good. Next up, District 4, Councilmember Quinn Dennehy.
Thank you. Dave, I'm not sure if you got the slides in time. Thanks so much. Before I get into the slides that I have, I actually just want to echo Councilmember Younger's appreciation for everybody that came down. I think seeing some past council members here is a testament to the fact that you serve not out of ego, but out of actual concern for the city. And I can say as somebody that's been on council almost 2 years, it's really powerful when we have a lot of different voices coming in for civil discourse. And I want to encourage you to continue to come because especially certain folks, you carry a lot of weight based on your service. So thank you so much for that. I disagree with a lot of things that Roy Runyon says, one thing I do agree with, and will take up the challenge, maybe out of Providence, is, my husband and I are recently rewatching The West Wing. And actually last night was the episode about the Taiwanese government testing defensive missiles. So I will come to that challenge and write an ordinance. I think we'll have to talk to a Taiwanese city, but as we see the rise of Russia, as we see the rise of China, I think it's really important to form relationships with democratic nations. I hope we have one in India, which is the largest democracy in the world as well. I really want to offer a genuine proposal to my fellow white folks in the audience and on council that are in different stages of what I believe is racism. I was there myself at certain times, and I would like to share my journey and how my perspective has changed through my experiences. I was privileged enough to have that changed over many different experiences, including moving from Montana, which is one of the whitest states in the nation, to New Orleans, Louisiana, and seeing systemic oppression. It seems like, as Dr. Bolton states, there's a lot of education that needs to be there. And it should not fall on our BIPOC communities to educate white people. It should be white folks who are at least longer on the spectrum to help educate. So, I believe it's Michaela and Mike and Roy and Mary Lou and even my fellow council members that have been named. I would love to grab coffee or a beer and talk to you about what it means to be an anti-racist white person and share some information that can help educate. Onto my slides. I've spoken about this in study sessions, but unfortunately I will not be seeking office for the coming year, most likely because of a change of address outside of the district. But I did want to, I really want to see a robust election for District 4. I would love to see a diverse group of people. So if you know anybody in District 4 who you think can be a great community leader and can amplify voices up here, please reach out to them. This is from the Kitsap County Auditor's website. There are 3 positions actually up. It's the even districts, District 2, which is Denise Fry, myself, District 4, and Ms. Anna Mockler at District 6 are all up. So if you know anybody in those districts, I think that robust exchange of ideas and discourse gets us the best candidates to represent people in Bremerton. If you move to the next slide, this is on the website as well. You can see the boundaries of District 6, District 4, and District 2. Just double check with the Kitsap County Auditor to make sure that you live within those boundaries. There was a recent change to it, and the lines obviously are not straight. So just double check that you're able to run. And the next one is just important. The filing deadline, the filing week is May 15th through the 19th. If you go onto the website, kitsap.gov.com, auditor pages, there's a great candidate guidelines. There's really great information if you know anybody that is interested in running for either my seat or any of the other seats that are up. And I would also like to extend coffee to anybody that is interested in running for my seat to just share my experience on council and what I think prepares you to be successful. Thanks a lot.
Next up, we'll go to District 2, Councilmember Denise Fry.
Thanks. And while we're getting the slides up, I too would like to thank you. It's not easy coming in here and speaking truth to power. And I welcome it. I really do. And I've heard a lot that I'm gonna really seriously consider. Some reframing, you know? And with that, I need to give a heads up to Location Skate Shop. If any of you on who are watching on Zoom or have gotten close to me tonight, about a week ago, I took a header on one of our sidewalks, face plant personally, and happened to be in front of Location Skate Shop. They're used to seeing those things and experiencing those things. So I want to give a shout out, thank you for the care that I received from the skate shop. They knew that my chin had taken the most of the brunt. So thanks, you guys. I also noticed that they're using some Bremerton city type of swag. Yeah, next. I also need to do a mea culpa over the Admiral Theater. I think that last time I was here, I said something about the Admiral not serving mocktails, because every time I'd ordered, they never had mocktails. They do have mocktails. I heard from Brian Johnson the next day. They have a Lighthouse lemonade is their drink of choice, and anything else. So my apologies to the Admiral Theater and to Brian Johnson. And then next. Next up, as far as a way to get involved, District 2, we've got a Sheridan Park cleanup that's scheduled for the 29th from 10 to noon. Grab your gloves. Hopefully you've got a good back. There are a lot of blackberry bushes and other things to take out. So hope to see everybody there. And then lastly, this is a statue that is in Rochester, New York. And it's of Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass. They were very good friends. And this is in the Susan B. Anthony Park. And it was built as a testament to their relationship, which wasn't always easy. They had very difficult conversations. Yet they remain cordial enough to have tea together, I guess. And so I'm going to say to my fellow council member, who we've been trying to have coffee for over a year, let's have coffee. Let's have a cup of tea. Let's answer an email when somebody reaches out for help. And let's keep it civil. Thank you.
Next up, we have District 1, Council Vice President Jennifer Chamberlain.
Oh, yes. Okay, so first of all, check this out. We got to sneak into the greenhouses over by Birch Street Trailhead at Stephenson Canyon. Okay, it wasn't so much sneaking in. That's Juanita. She works for the Parks Department. Jeff Caesar, that Director Elevato Caesar. She let us in, and this is a couple of my constituents, Rudy and Perdita. Some of you might know her photography on social media. Fantastic photographer. And then we have the Dawsons, and then there's me. So next, we can just kind of run through these really fast. We got to do a little Stephenson Canyon cleanup. There's Rudy. He rolled 2 tires out of the canyon. The next one, is it me? I don't know, it's somewhere. There we are at the truck with Juanita. We are very slimy and oily and dirty from rolling up those tires. Is there another picture there? Oh, Perdita there. She was just entranced by the whole, and if you haven't ever been to Stephenson Canyon, it's just a little treasure. It's a treat right in the center of my district. I think it goes into your district too a little bit. Oh, there I am rolling up one of the tires there. I'll say I had just got my nails done the first day, and I had to give my gloves away to Rudy. I still rolled that tire up. I know. Sacrifices you make. The nails still look good. But that's, either way, we were really glad to get, we got a big bag of garbage out, 3 tires, and it was the beginning of, a nice little community group of people that want to do some help. I also learned about an Adopt a Spot program that Brian Stevenson at Cafe Perfetto does every second Saturday. And they had a really fantastic team. So I went out with them earlier in the day. And so I'm going to transition a little bit. I feel like this has been an important meeting. And people have said that they're impressed at how many people are here. I'm impressed with how many people stayed. Y'all are still here during our council reports. I think that's what we really like too, is because people will come and they'll say stuff, but they won't wait until it's our turn to give a response. So thank you to those who have stuck around. I do appreciate the wide variety of voices we hear. I learned from every perspective. I feel like this is the night of quotes. So I'm going to give you a quote here, because I want to caveat this by saying, you know, I appreciate the folks that I work with here. I think that I feel pretty alone in my dissent, and so I was very disappointed last week with the ladies' responses and suggestions for a change. And I appreciate you, and I hope we still are gonna go get coffee together. But I vehemently disagree with how you skewed the issue and how you tried to elevate yourself as white women above the issue of race. If you want a quote, I've got one. And it's from the National Park Service of all places. Susan B. Anthony, regarding suffrage, said, "If you will not give the whole loaf of suffrage to the entire people, give it to the most intelligent first," meaning white women. And I will not subscribe to a form of feminism that doesn't acknowledge that our privilege, that our position has come at the labor and on the backs of brown and black women throughout history. So I just was so disappointed, and I have respect for you. I have respect for everybody here, but just deeply upset with that. Anyway, I'm very glad you guys are still here. This would be one of those days where I wish I had all those cookies that I normally bring and I put in the back room, but I have no cookies for you this week. I'll bring cookies in a month for everybody who sticks around, okay? Thank you to Dr. Bolton. Thank you to former Councilmember Dogs for coming. Thank you to folks who are here to support keeping the REACT committee as the Racial Equity Advisory Committee. That's just the right damn thing to do. Thank you.
Last up is me for District 3. I got a couple slides and then I'll tack on. This will be quick because I realize my slides are nearly identical to the mayor's, so I was laughing. The first one's about the Walla Walla. As the mayor briefed, I'm sure everyone's aware of the incident the other night. I just wanted to comment on this. I've been, I think, pretty vocal about getting support for Bremerton since we've been next to last for this whole time. We've been stuck on one vote service. And I feel it's really important for folks to keep speaking out to Washington State Ferries on this, because as I see it, and especially when we talk about Bainbridge versus Bremerton, we have two roads and one is full of potholes and the other one's paved with gold. And people ask for the potholes to be repaired and they say, well, why? No one drives on that road. Everyone takes the gold road. And I don't want to see Bremerton continue that happen, that we get degraded service and we get less passengers because of that degraded service, then that's used as a reason to get us less resources, less ferries. And so please keep speaking up on this because it's frustrating. I think the Walla Walla incident supported it. So, you know, first and foremost, thanks so much to the ship's crew, who by all accounts had an excellent response as soon as things went south. Thank you to all the first responders, people at Washington State Ferries that stayed up late, that had to leave family to work on this. Thank you so much to Kitsap Transit, who I think is what a literal lifeline in Bremerton, both in this situation and having connectivity to Seattle. But I got to point out, Walla Walla is one of the older boats that's had this situation before. And when it went out of service, luckily we got a replacement, but the Issaquah was even older. And I happened to take this picture because I was on the way to the Mariners game Saturday on the fast ferry and got on, heard about it, and went by, took this photo, had some neighbors that were on the boat. And I had it real easy. I was able to split an Uber ride back home with some friends and we were able to afford that. But I know there were a lot of folks that took other fast ferries over, and when the fast ferries were tied up in the rescue operation, they weren't sure how they were going to get home. And although, again, Kitsap Transit and overall coordination ended up being good, most people could get home, some had to stay the night. We wouldn't have had the situation if we had two boats, if we had a modern boat, if we had the Chimicum that was initially supposed to be our boat. So encourage folks, just please keep speaking up. We got to make sure Bremerton does not be stuck on one vote forever. Next slide. Re-echo the Sinclair Inlet Cleanup Day. And I forgot to put in slides from the downtown Bremerton cleanup we had the other day. Very successful through the county Adopt a Spot program. Had 10 big bags of trash. So many cigarette butts, my goodness. But we did some power washing, got some nice plants planted. So that was a really good community event. So yes, please attend the one this weekend in your local location. And if your neighborhood needs it, sign up with the Adopt a Spot. And final slide. And yes, another echo for the Warren Bridge. Not only is this huge for the city, it's literally on the corner of 4 of each of our districts. So it really affects everybody. It's a big project. Kudos to Public Works for carrying this big project forward. Really fantastic to see the online survey, the in-person open house. It's gonna be great to get as much input as possible. A long meeting, a lot of talking. All right, that's my last slide, which we can take down. I just want to say this is fantastic. Let me echo the fellow members and end on a high note here. It's really great to see everybody out here, both former elected officials, community members, everybody attending online, which I'm so glad we're able to do. I want to give another thanks to the Navy for attending tonight, and thank you to our veterans, including Mayor Wheeler and Councilmember Goodnow. And just, you know, I'm going to Councilmember Younger, I am so sorry. No, thank you all for your service. Yeah, that was it was not Navy. I'm really proud of this council. I gotta say it out loud, and I've said this before. We could make our job real easy up here. You get elected, we could never tackle any tough issues. We could keep approving the vote register, or sort of the check register, and you know, vehicle purchases, but we decided as a council this year to really tackle a lot of tough issues that you're seeing come before us, and we have more to come. So I'm really proud of us for tackling these tough issues and for having in these discussions. But I'm really most proud of the community for speaking up, for making us have those tough discussions, for showing up, for coming online. It's really appreciated. And let me echo, it isn't a huge town. We're not too tiny, but we all do get to know each other, which I think is fantastic, to know each other as fellow human beings and be able to have that cup of coffee and cup of tea. So I'll just keep encourage folks to please keep speaking up, get your friends to come, write in emails, keep it coming. That's what we need. And so with that, thank you all so much for attending. I'll note that the next study session is going to be held on the 6th floor council conference room next Wednesday, April 26th, beginning at 5, with a remote option. And thanks again to IT for continuing that hybrid setup, not just for in chambers, but the study session online, so folks can watch live and watch the recording. Thanks again to everyone for coming tonight. That concludes tonight's council business. Meeting is adjourned.
All right, guys, that is the end of the city council meeting. Normally I don't come on after, I just end it there. I just want to give you guys just a little few nuggets of information. One, after the study session last week, I got a phone call from Councilman Chamberlain, and she wanted to know if I had recorded and aired the study session. And of course I did. And the reason why she was asking that question is she could not find the BCAT recording. As of the last time I looked, which was, maybe 2 days ago, I did not see it. So it is one of the reasons why I do that. For the woman who gets up every week and recites the Pledge of Allegiance, I talked about that in the chat, right? And she talks about, oh, you need to come down, you need to talk. And she speaks from such privilege of having that discretionary time to come down and sit through hours of city council and make her voice heard. Many of us are in survival mode and are unable to do that. That's why it's so important to broadcast this out. BCAT doesn't broadcast study sessions, they refuse to do it. I thought they were doing it for a little while and now it's gone. So definitely must continue to record these study sessions so that there is a record, right? If I hadn't recorded last week, if the conduit didn't record, no one would have known what really took place. It would just been hearsay from those that were in the room. So you can go and look at that video. I did carve out that hour just where they spoke about REACT. And that's where you saw that people were so very frustrated. Dr. Karen Bolton, Daryl Riley, Christie, and many others. So you can see that and you'll understand why. I did a follow-up podcast this morning going in to more history on the suffragette movement, because I think these things aren't taught in our schools, right? I didn't learn this in junior high school. I didn't learn this in Washington State history. I only went to ninth grade, so, didn't spend a lot of time in high school. But just from talking to a few people, their anecdotal response was they hadn't had this education either, right? And so it's important that we understand the history, and we know that nationwide, there is a huge orchestrated movement to suppress, to destroy, and even to change our history, right? Slaves, some of them liked their experience, and I've heard all types of things. The most disparaging and disheartening thing that I've heard is that you have other Black folks, young ones, and when I say young, I'm talking about 30s and below, that are speaking like far right people because they don't even know their own history, and that is tremendously concerning. But that is spotty too. They didn't put the safety right, absolutely. So we will try to do as much as we can. As always, if folks want to volunteer to help us keep pushing this message out, I can train you on how to do that so that this is available to everyone. Understand, like I said in the quote, quoting Frederick Douglass, my quote is, power is taken, it is not given. If you are waiting around for these folks to give you access, to give you equity, to give you justice, you are likely to be waiting a very long time. So you have to make your voice heard. Now, it's also unfortunate that this evening at the same time, Key Bank was at Sinclair Church, and they were hiring people on the spot. And so, again, we're in survival mode. And so folks have to make a choice. And while not every Black person or every BIPOC person in the city was at that event, a good portion of them were. A good portion of them were. And so it's hard to make concessions and move around. But I implore you, as busy as you are, as hard as it is that you are trying to survive, you must understand and prioritize this. We the people, democracy only works if we're all a part of it, which means that we have to get involved, we have to be educated, we have to ask questions, and it's not enough to vote. You can't vote a Leslie Dogs in and then leave her unsupported, because after a decade of being beat down, eventually it's like it's too much. So vote. 3 positions are open. I would love to see Frey and Mockler be replaced and have someone that has more of an understanding. Again, as I spoke earlier, they're pushing through a levy for firefighters and police. 1, I think it should be separated, but 2, again, we appear to be working backwards. If there is a need, because there are so many more calls, if you addressed those that are unhoused, then you would probably see a major decrease in those calls. When you look at the point in time count, actually, I think that just went out. I won't pull it up tonight. I'll do it another time. But one of the things they talk about is what was the cause? What was the catalyst for homelessness? And a lot of folks don't start off with mental health. It's the longer and longer and longer that they are ostracized and put aside from society and unable to get footing back in, that mental health problems develop. That drug use, alcohol use develop or the abuse of it. If you don't have family and friends and resources and savings and all these different things to rely upon, somehow we need to be empathetic enough to see that that could easily be us. And to be the richest nation in the history of mankind, there is no reason for any of us to be unhoused, unless that's exactly what we want. And most people, that's not their choice. So if it's only $12 a month for this levy, and as one of the citizens said very flippantly, oh, that's just my Netflix, that's nothing. Then what could we do if we dig deep and do $50 a month per residence? So that we're not walking past someone who is unhoused, walking past someone who is hurting, walking past someone that does not have a bathroom, walking past, it's ridiculous. It doesn't have access to health care. These are the things that need to happen. These are the things that need to be done. Oh, maybe a quick online petition to get folks to let the council know that they don't want to vote for both the Bremerton PD and the fire department levy at the same time. Yeah, we could try that. I know they gave their blessing this evening and it's going to be put through. Or they put it through, so I'm assuming at this point they can go forward with the levy. What can't remember which council person said it, but they are absolutely right. There are very few people that actually come down and make their voice heard, and it's those same voices. And I think it's ironic. Is it ironic? Is that the word? That I would say the far right Simpson and the Pledge of Allegiance woman and the other council person are all on the right side, on our right. We're looking at the right on the right. And I'm looking at the smugness and the smartness, right? They come up, there's not too much emotion. They say what they say, they feign like they just can't understand. Oh, we don't want preferential treatment. But the subsidies that these developers get, the subsidies that these business owners get, the subsidies that property owners get. See, they can't see their own privilege, but they'll look at someone who is poor and point out their subsidy. All right, y'all. Whew, take care of yourself, take care of each other. I may come on and just do an unboxing tonight. I got some new equipment, and I tell you what, I need a drink. You know, I just need to relax a little bit. But don't be deterred. That's what they want. These folks have time. I don't know if they're retired. I don't know what their situation is, but they got time to show up every week, every other week, make their voice heard. And if it's the only voice that's heard, that is going to sway the council. So make your voice heard. Don't worry about if it's not in person. Don't worry about having to stay. Write a letter if you have to. But what I love, you could do both. What I love about speaking it out is it is part of the record where they can't deny it. Who knows where the letter went? I'm sure some people have written letters, and so it's there, but it's not like they read those letters. And just like a student in a classroom, one person raises their hand and asks a question, and 6 or 7 other students are so glad they asked the question. They were just kind of afraid to ask themselves. Your strength of making your voice heard, of advocating for your interest, will empower others to come and make their voice heard too. All right. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. I'm Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. See you guys next time.